My idea about Civilizations 3 was that students are already very comfortable with the medium of technology. I think that teachers, educators, and institutions had a harder time catching up, and I felt that it was time to sort of come to some kind of compromise and collaboration. So I started experimenting myself with technology, which, as frustrating as it is, I have a lot of fun with, and I think it's a great opportunity to learn. As you know, educators should always be constant learners. And Civilizations 3 came across my desk through my son Jordan, who had always enjoyed role-playing games, and he said, you know, this might be something interesting for your history class. And so I played with it and experimented and realized that not only is it fun, it's educational in the sense that entire infrastructures of civilizations need to be built up, maintained, and negotiations with neighbors in peace or war. The idea of even trying to decide what kind of climate, geography, how that all factors into the longevity of a civilization, or how difficult it might be to maintain a civilization that's surrounded by water or mountains. So my idea was that somehow the students were going to learn what it takes to run a civilization, thereby understanding the trials and tribulations of real civilizations. We did put together a schedule of technology time, tech lab time, and immediately you could see the excitement.
I started as the Americans, and Washington was my capital. And as you can see by the population numbers, it was the largest city. My overall goal was simply to expand. So I needed a strong military, and what I decided to go for was a navy. So here I'm about to lay siege to, I believe that's the Japanese.
I approached a representative at Firaxis and basically said, listen, this is something I've used in the past. You really need to consider having an education department. We will be your guinea pigs and help you coordinate something along those lines. And not only that, but the IT people here and myself will write something up that will allow you to actually publicize and advertise the idea that these games can be used educationally. And we immediately got 20 CDs to use for the year.
Oh, this is me as Cleopatra of the Egyptians, circa 1250 AD. The Egyptians were some of the first people to have like a successful society on the Mediterranean, and even though I'm probably not on the Mediterranean right now, I knew that they had good skills with like managing like floods, and had good trade. And actually the Greeks and the Romans are allied with me because they are just in awe of my culture. So right now my biggest cities are Memphis and Thebes and Elephantine and Heliopolis. Heliopolis is my capital.
Science was very important to my civilization because I thought that it was the quickest way to gain both military advantage as well as advantage as far as internal trade goes. So I started by developing the Republic as soon as I could, and then I moved on to the Middle Age technologies. I quickly went for magnetism so that I could get a strong navy. Then I moved on to the Industrial Ages, and I quickly developed steam power with railroads in mind. seeing that quicker transportation was really important, especially when you have such a large civilization, because you need to be able to get your military to wherever you're under attack or wherever you need to support yourself efficiently. And then I went for mass production, and soon after I got motorized tanks. And I'm currently developing advanced flight because I see that as the next front.
What did you think when Lynn told you she was going to use Civ 3 for history classes?
I think my immediate reaction was a little bit cynical and wondering whether this was playing games instead of being in class. And then I think very quickly remembered, I had not played this game before, but had played SimCity, or early versions of SimCity when my kids were young, and I remember really liking it. And getting in interesting conversations with them and debating what kind of city we wanted to build and how things would change. And so I started thinking in those terms about how it might really be fun, and not only fun, but generate good conversations among the kids. And I've often, in courses that I've taught, used simulations where the kids reenact a trial or simulated National Security Council meeting or Executive Council with the Bay of Pigs crisis, and often that kind of role playing really is powerful and interesting. And said, okay, this is sort of another way to accomplish that same goal. So as soon as I started thinking about it, I was very supportive and sort of wished I'd come up with the idea first. From what I've seen, the kids loved it, and the kids were. The kids were very interested, and more than just because they got to do something different, got to play, and they were spending a lot of time outside of class. And I know Lynn was very good at sort of holding them to task and making them write up papers afterwards, sort of talking about their civilizations and what they discovered and comparing to others. And so it was, that part I think was very positive too. To being sure that there was a clear academic follow-up in addition to just playing the game.
Although I'm very much into flexibility, I am keen on rubrics for the student's sake, that they get a piece of paper that helps them understand that grading was not subjective, that there's real merit to every piece that went into this puzzle, and that they can actually read it for themselves. So I'm big on rubrics, and I developed a rubric whereby presentation and certainly the understanding of infrastructure of civilizations, their own limitations. In some ways it had to be self-reflective, or I was not happy if it was just sort of an objective, well, this is one civilization, this is the other. That was somewhat thin. There's always projects that you try to incorporate that flop. This was one of the successes that in years past, and it happened this year again, that as soon as you actually get them into the lab where they're connected into a computer and they're actually starting the game, their focus, no matter how overstimulated they can be, no matter how they have a hard time focusing attention on any one thing, their focus is complete. And my observations is that civilizations or any kind of simulation game can connect every kind of learner, because it's not only it's visual, it's also contextual. Kids are forced to adapt in so many different ways that even those kids that aren't technologically savvy can do this. And my observations is it just connects everybody in all different ways. And as a teacher, that's what you always look for.
I think that playing Civ 3 this trimester taught students a lot about world history. It was worth their while to sit at the computers for hours and click away, controlling every tiny detail of their civilizations. I feel I've taken a lot away from the process, because I feel more familiar with history and more confident in answering questions about overall trends. It was a very difficult project for me, but I'm happy I got to experience its addictiveness.
Civilization 3 taught me how to build an empire successfully. Learning how to set up, maintain, and protect my civilization was a fun learning experience. Also, it was interesting to find that my civilization had very many similarities to a real empire in history, the Soviet Union. This project was a learning experience not to be forgotten.
Civilizations 3 has taught me a lot about how civilizations formed and advanced in technology. I learned that it takes hard work, discipline, ingenuity, and military strength to build a civilization. To become successful and known throughout the world does not happen quickly. It takes time and patience. If history is studied, and it's understood why bad decisions are made, and present civilizations are aware of how others have failed, maybe we can finally get it right.